For 25 years, I've carried the weight of my last words to my brother Damien. I hope you fail. I was furious he was skipping my college graduation to go on a study trip right before his own finals. When he vanished from that campsite, a part of me believed my anger had somehow willed it into existence. Then, last month, the call came. A record-breaking drought had lowered the lake, and a hiker found a briefcase. His briefcase. My name is Anahi Wells. I'm 47 years old. I'm the head librarian for a small community college, and my life is quiet, measured. I arrange my books by color, then by author. I drink my tea at exactly 4:15 p.m. I live in a small condo that has never been loud, not really. This orderly, quiet life is a fortress I built, brick by brick, to keep the chaos of 1998 at bay, because in 1998 my life was anything but quiet. It was the year I graduated from college, and it was the year my brother Damien disappeared from the face of the earth. Damien was the golden boy. You hear that term, but he was it. He was 22, a year younger than me, but he'd skipped a grade. He was already in his final year of pre-law at a prestigious university. He had a smile that could disarm a bomb and a mind that was, frankly, a little frightening in its precision. He was the son in Wells and Sons Construction, the company our father Mateo and our uncle Roland had built from nothing. Damien was supposed to join them, learn the business, and then take it over. He was the future. I was just Anahi, the quiet one, the bookworm. I was proud of him, so proud it hurt, but I was also constantly living in the shadow of his blinding light. The day it all shattered was a Friday, May 15th, 1998. My graduation was the next day. I was standing in front of the full-length mirror in our parents' house, fiddling with the tassel on my cap. I remember the smell of my mom's hairspray and the sound of a lawnmower outside. Damien knocked on the open door. He wasn't smiling. He looked exhausted, pale, and he was holding that briefcase of his. It was a heavy, old-school metal and leather thing he'd bought at a thrift store. He thought it made him look like a serious lawyer. "Hey, Ani," he said. His voice was rough. "Hey yourself," I said, turning to show him the cap. "How does it look? Ridiculous, right?" He didn't answer. He just leaned against the doorframe and rubbed his eyes. "Ani, I can't make it tomorrow." The air went still. The lawnmower sound faded. "What do you mean you can't make it?" "It's my graduation, Damien. You're sitting front row with Mom and Dad." "I can't," he said, and his eyes were darting around, not landing on me. This study trip, I have to go. It's for finals. I'm behind." I stared at him. "Behind? You? You've never been behind on a single thing in your life. What's in that briefcase, Damien? The secret to cold fusion? What's more important than this?" It's complicated, Anahi. It's work. It's for Dad." "For Dad," I repeated. The words came out bitter, sharp. It was always for Dad, the business, the future, the pressure. It's always for Dad. It's always the business. This is my day, Damien, the one day that's supposed to be about me." I know, and I'm sorry," he said, pushing off the doorframe. He looked like he was carrying the world on his shoulders. "I promise, I'll make it up to you. I just have to handle this first. I'll be back late tomorrow. Save me a seat, okay? I'll try." But I was 23, I was hurt, and I was selfish. I turned my back on him, facing the mirror again. "You know what? Don't bother. Just go. Go study. Go be the perfect son." "Ani, please." "I hope you fail," I whispered. He was silent for a long moment. I could feel his eyes on my back. "I'm sorry," he finally said, his voice barely audible. And then he was gone. I heard his footsteps on the stairs, the jingle of his car keys, and the front door closing. "I hope you fail." Those were the last words I ever spoke to him. He drove up to the Sierra Nevada campgrounds, a place he supposedly loved to study. 5 days later, when he hadn't come home, my parents reported him missing. The scene at the campsite was, it's the image that haunts my sleep. It's the photo they showed us, the one that was in the paper, a small tent, a collapsible picnic table. On it, his big, heavy pre-law textbooks were open, pages ruffled by the wind, a thermos, still half full of lukewarm coffee. His car was parked just yards away, but Damien was gone. The police searched for weeks. Divers went into the lake. Volunteers combed the woods. They found nothing. No note, no sign of a struggle, no Damien. He had, as the lead detective put it, simply evaporated. The disappearance didn't just break our family, it shattered it into a million unrecognizable pieces. My mother, Alara, retreated into a world of quiet, hazy grief. She'd sit in Damien's empty room for hours, just holding his baseball glove. My father, Matteo, threw himself into the business, but all the joy was gone. He became hard, brittle. He and Uncle Roland, who had been inseparable, started arguing. The house was filled with a toxic, grieving silence. I moved out. I couldn't breathe in that house. I couldn't look at my mother's empty eyes or my father's clenched jaw. And I couldn't live with the echo of my own voice in the hallway. I hope you fail. My guilt was a living thing, a parasite. I believed in a dark, superstitious part of my soul that my words had done it, that I had cursed him. Years turned into a decade. My father died of a sudden heart attack. He was only 58. After that, my mother's mind, already fragile, began to slip. Uncle Roland took over the business completely. He moved Mom into a beautiful guest cottage on his new sprawling estate and hired full-time nurses. He was the patriarch now, the one who held it all together. He was rich, respected. I became a librarian. I found comfort in the Dewey Decimal System, in the quiet rustle of pages, in the absolute predictable order of it all. 25 years, a quarter of a century, and then, last month, October 2023, I was at the reference desk helping a student find a source on abnormal psychology. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a number I didn't recognize. Sierra County. This is Anahi Wells, I answered. Ms. Wells, a man's voice said. Young, professional. My name is Deputy Allister. I'm with the Sierra County Sheriff's Department. My blood went cold. They only ever called for one reason. Yes? Ms. Wells, are you aware of the record-breaking drought we've been experiencing up here? I've seen it on the news. The reservoir. That's right. The Ironwood Reservoir. The water level is down about 40 feet. It's exposing parts of the lake bed that haven't been seen since before it was a reservoir. I gripped the edge of the desk. The student was staring at me. A hiker was out on the new shoreline yesterday, Ms. Wells, on the north end near the old campgrounds. He found something. It was a briefcase, a metal briefcase caked in mud. The name Damien Wells was engraved on a small brass plate on the handle. I couldn't breathe. The student's face blurred. The library, my fortress of quiet, spun around me. Ms. Wells, are you still there? Yes, I managed to whisper. Yes, I'm here. We have it at the station, he said, his voice gentle. It's locked. We were hoping you might be able to come up, to identify it, and maybe help us open it. The drive to Sierra County took 4 hours. It was the same stretch of highway I'd driven with my father 25 years ago, a drive marked by a desperate, frantic silence. This time I was alone, and the silence was different. It was heavy, thick with dread, and a strange, sick flicker of hope. What if he just ran away? What if the briefcase was full of cash? For 25 years I had allowed any theory to be true, except the one where he was dead, because if he was dead, my last words were a curse. The sheriff's station was a small brick building that smelled of stale coffee and dust. Deputy Allister looked to be about Damien's age, 22. He had kind eyes and seemed almost afraid to look at me for too long. Ms. Wells, thank you for coming. I'm sorry to make you do this. Where is it? I asked. He led me to an evidence room, and there it was, sitting in a large plastic tub. It was horrifying, caked in thick, black, dry mud. The leather was rotted away, but the metal frame was intact, scarred with rust. But I didn't even need to see the nameplate. I saw the dent, a deep crescent-shaped gash on the bottom left corner. He dropped it, I said, my voice hollow. I reached out and touched the cold, gritty metal. He dropped it down the stairs at our house. A week before. It's his, then, Alistair said. It's his. It's locked, he said again. The tumblers are rusted solid. We'd like your permission to cut the latches. Yes, I said. Please, do it now. As Alistair went to get a pair of bolt cutters, an older man stepped into the room. He was tall, thin, and looked like he'd been carved out of old wood. He wore a rumpled jacket and had the saddest eyes I'd ever seen. Anahi Wells? He asked. Yes. My name is Kyle. I was Detective Kyle. In 1998, I was the lead on your brother's case. I remembered him, or the younger version of him, the man who had looked so tired as he told my parents, "We've exhausted all our leads." I'm retired now, Cale said, but I live just down the road. Alistair called me. He knew I'd want to be here. This case, it never sat right with me, Anahi. Never. Alistair returned with the bolt cutters. He placed the briefcase on the floor, put the steel jaws around the right latch, and squeezed. There was a loud metallic snap that made me jump. He did the same for the left. Slowly, almost reverently, he lifted the lid. The smell hit us first. Stagnant lake water, mud, and decay. My stomach churned. But Damien, my brilliant, meticulous brother, he hadn't just been pre-law. He'd been paranoid. Inside, beneath a layer of moldy textbook, I saw the title, Principles of Corporate Law, was a stack of thick Ziploc freezer bags, the heavy-duty kind with the double zip. Inside the bags, things were damp but preserved. Alistair and Cale looked at each other. This was no longer a cold case. Gloved, Alistair carefully pulled out the first bag. Inside was a small black notebook, a ledger. He opened it. The ink, written with a fine-point pen, was blurred but legible. Dates, numbers, transfers, and two sets of initials, R.W. and M.W., Roland Wells, Mateo Wells. What is that? I asked, stepping closer. It looks like a private ledger, Kyle said, his voice grim. Alistair pulled out the second bag. This one contained a sheaf of papers, invoices, copies of invoices. Sierra Timber, one was billed to. Mountain Pass Supplies, read another. All of them were charging Wells and Sons Construction for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've never heard of those companies, I said. Neither have I, Cale murmured. And I've lived here my whole life. These look like dummy corporations. My heart was hammering against my ribs. What was he doing? Alistair reached for the last bag. It was smaller and it only held one thing, a single folded piece of notebook paper. He carefully extracted it. It was damp and it tore slightly at the crease. He unfolded it and laid it on the table. It was a letter. My name was at the top, Ani. My hands were shaking so violently I couldn't hold them still. Kyle pointed to the letter. You should read that, Anahi. I picked it up. The paper was soft, fragile, but his handwriting was unmistakable. Ani, I'm so sorry. I know you're mad. You have every right to be, but I found something. I think Uncle Roland is stealing from Dad, from us. I've been looking at the books for my internship. I wasn't supposed to, but I saw things. Payments that didn't make sense. Companies that don't seem to exist. He's been doing it for years, Ani. Millions. He's bleeding the company dry. I think Dad knows. I think Dad is trying to cover it from his own accounts, and it's bankrupting him. He's too proud, or too scared to stop him. I'm meeting him tonight at the campsite. He thinks I want to learn the ropes of the real business. He's been feeding me that line for a month. I'm going to confront him. I have to. I can't let him destroy what Dad built. I can't let him destroy Dad. This is the only way. I've got all my proof in this case. He can't deny it. I'll be there. I promise. I'll just be late. Save me a seat. I'll explain everything when I get there. I love you. D. I read it once, then twice. The room was silent except for the sound of my own ragged breathing, a sound that turned into a sob. It wasn't a study trip. He wasn't skipping my graduation because he didn't care. He was 22 years old, and he was walking into a meeting with a man who was stealing millions, and he was doing it to save our father. I hope you fail, I whispered, the words choking me. Cale put a hand on my shoulder. Anahi, this isn't your fault. This is a homicide. Alistair was already on the phone. Get me everything you can on a Roland Wells of Wells and Sons Construction, he said, and find me the incorporation papers for Sierra Timber and Mountain Pass Supplies, vintage 1995 to 1998. My guilt didn't vanish. It just shifted. It turned cold, hard, and sharp. It turned into rage. He's not untouchable, Cale said, as if reading my mind. Not anymore. This right here, he tapped the ledger. This is a motive. And this, he tapped my letter. This is a smoking gun. He was the last person to see your brother alive. So what do we do? I asked, wiping my face. Roland is rich, Cale said, as he's powerful. These ledgers are 25 years old. His lawyers will call it circumstantial. They'll say Damien was a confused kid. We need more. We need something current or something that connects Roland directly to those dummy corporations. My mother, I said, the thought hitting me like a stone. She lives on his property. Alistair hung up the phone. The corporations were registered to a P.O. box in Reno, dissolved in 1999. It's a dead end. Not necessarily, Cale said, looking at me. Your uncle got sloppy. He wouldn't have just thrown this stuff away. People like him, they're arrogant. They keep trophies. Or they just keep meticulous records. Anahi, is there anywhere in that house, anywhere he might have kept the old files from 1998? I thought. The main house was new, built with the money he'd stolen, but my father's old study, I said, in our family home. Roland sold that house years ago, but he moved all of my father's things into his new estate. He locked up the old desk, the file cabinets, said it was too painful to go through them. He keeps it all in a climate-controlled storage room in the basement of his main house. A vault. He calls it preserving the family history. He's preserving the evidence, Kyle said, a dark fire in his eyes. I can't get in there, I said. He keeps it locked. But you can get on the property, Alistair said. You're his niece. You're visiting your mother. You are not a threat. You're just the grieving librarian. What am I looking for? Anything, Cale said, that has the name Sierra Timber or Mountain Pass. Anything that links back to that P.O. box in Reno, a checkbook, an old letter, anything. He'll be there, I said, my voice shaking. He's always there. Be the grieving niece, Alistair said, his voice firm. Tell him what we found. Tell him it was just old textbooks and that it's reopened the wound. You're emotional. You need to see your mother. You need to be with family. You want me to lie to him? Your brother died trying to tell the truth, Cale said, his voice soft. It's time someone finished the job. Driving to Roland's estate was like driving into a foreign country. It was a sprawling Mediterranean-style mansion on 100 acres of manicured hillside. It was a monument to his success, built on the foundation of my father's ruin and my brother's life. I parked and went to the guest cottage first. My mother, Alara, was sitting in a sunroom looking out at a rose garden. A nurse was quietly knitting in the corner. Mom? I said, touching her shoulder. She turned. Her eyes were pale, unfocused. Oh, hello, dear. Did you bring the thing for the, you know? I'm here, Mom. It's Anahi. Anahi, she said, smiling faintly. She patted my hand. That's nice. Roland is here. He's such a good man. He takes care of everything. My stomach turned. I know, Mom. I have to go see him. I left her there in her gilded memory loss cage and walked the stone path to the main house. Roland was in his massive great room, a fireplace roaring at one end, a glass of dark liquor in his hand. He was 70 now, but he looked 50. Silver hair, a tailored cashmere sweater. He was the picture of a man at peace. Anahi, darling, he said, smiling, that same easy, disarming smile. What a surprise. You look like you've seen a ghost. I let the tears come. It wasn't hard. They found him, Uncle Roland. They found Damien. His face, for a split second, went rigid. The glass in his hand visibly shook. It was so fast I might have missed it if I wasn't looking for it. What? He said, his voice a low thrum. What did you say? His briefcase, I sobbed. The Drought. A hiker found his briefcase in the lake. He's gone. He's really gone. He moved to me, put his hands on my shoulders. His grip was strong. Oh, Anahi, my poor girl, after all this time. What was in it? Just books, I lied, letting my voice crack. His stupid, heavy law books, all ruined. It's just made it all real again. I needed to see Mom. I needed to be with family. He pulled me into a hug. His sweater smelled of cedar and expensive scotch. Of course, darling. Of course you did. I'm here, whatever you need. This family has suffered enough. I pulled back. I was just thinking about Dad and Damien. I wondered if I could I just sit in Dad's old study for a while, the one in the basement? He stiffened again. Anahi, that room it's just storage. It's dusty. I know, I said. I want to feel close to him, please. He studied my face. I was the grieving niece, the quiet librarian, harmless. All right, he said, sighing. But don't be long. It's no good to dwell, Anahi. We have to look forward. He walked me to the basement door, a heavy, solid oak thing. He punched a code into a keypad and it clicked open. The light is on the left. Lock it when you're done. Thank you, Uncle. I stepped into the dark and shut the door. I didn't turn on the light. I just listened. I heard his footsteps recede, going back up the main stairs. I fumbled for the light. It flickered on, revealing a large, climate-controlled room. It was my father's life, in boxes, file cabinets, his old mahogany desk. I had my phone. Kyle and Alistair were waiting. I had one shot. I went straight to the file cabinets, 1998, tax returns, payroll, boring. I pulled open a drawer labeled partnerships. Nothing. I moved to the desk. It was just as he'd left it. His old pen set, a photo of me and Damien on a fishing boat. I felt a pang of guilt. I was violating his memory. No, I thought, Damien's voice in my head. I can't let him destroy Dad. I started opening drawers. Old invoices, bank statements, nothing. It was all clean. Roland must have purged the business files. But Damien's letter, I think Dad is trying to cover it from his own accounts. I looked at the desk again. Not the business files. The personal files. In the bottom right drawer, under a stack of old bank statements for his personal checking, was a different checkbook, a simple blue personal checkbook. I opened it. The last entry was April 1998. I flipped back. January, February, March. My hands stopped. March 5th, 1998, a check for $50,000, made out to Sierra Timber, in the memo line, R.W. Loan. March 18th, 1998, a check for $75,000 to Mountain Pass Supplies. Memo, R.W. Cover, April 10th, 1998, $50,000. Sierra Timber. Memo, RW. Final. My father knew. He wasn't just grieving, he was complicit. He was covering for his brother. He was bleeding his own retirement, his own savings, to hide the shame, to stop the company from imploding. Damien hadn't just been trying to save the business. He'd been trying to save our father from himself. I took out my phone and started snapping pictures. The check stubs, the ledger, the basement door opened. I didn't even have time to stand up. The light from the hallway silhouetted him. "I thought I heard you down here," Roland said. His voice was no longer kind. It was flat, cold. "Looking for something, Anahi?" I slowly stood up, my phone in my hand. "He knew," I whispered, holding up the checkbook. "My father. He knew you were stealing, and he was paying you to stop." Roland stepped into the room, letting the door swing shut behind him. The mask was gone. The man I was looking at was not my uncle. He was a stranger. "Your father was a fool," he hissed. "He was weak. He had no head for business. He would have run us into the ground with his charity and his handshake deals. I did what I had to do to protect what I built." "What you built? He was your partner." "He was an anchor," Roland shouted, taking a step toward me. "And then his son, his perfect son, sticking his nose where it didn't belong. He was just like your father, but with a spine, arrogant." "What did you do to him?" I demanded, my voice shaking but loud. "You met him at the campsite. What did you do?" He laughed, a short, ugly sound. He came at me with his little notebooks, his proof. He was going to expose me. He was going to expose his father. He was going to ruin the family name, ruin everything. All for what? Honor? He was advancing on me. I was backing up toward the file cabinets. "He threatened me," Roland sneered. "A 22-year-old boy threatening me. I tried to buy him off. I told him I'd give him a piece. He called me a thief. He said he was going to the police. We argued. I pushed him." He was close now. I could smell the scotch on his breath. He was so dramatic. He stumbled. He fell back. He hit his head on the fire pit, that stone ring. Roland looked at his hands. He didn't get up, just like that. All that fire, all that honor, gone. One little push. "You killed him," I whispered. My phone was still in my hand, still on. "I cleaned it up," he said, his voice distant, remembering. "I had to. I took that damned briefcase. It was heavy. I put rocks in it, rowed it out into the middle of the lake in the dark. It sank like a stone. I took care of him, drove him hours away to a construction site I was clearing up in Plumas. No one was ever going to find him. Under 10 feet of concrete." He looked at me, his eyes focusing, the coldness returning. "And no one was ever going to find this. Until you. You just couldn't leave it alone, could you, Anahi? Just like your brother." He lunged for the phone, but I'm not 23 anymore. I screamed and I threw my father's heavy, old-fashioned stapler right at his face. It hit him in the temple. He roared, stumbling back. The basement door burst open. Deputy Alistair and Cale were there, guns drawn. "Roland Wells," Alistair shouted. "You are under arrest for the murder of Damien Wells." Roland froze. He looked from them to me to the phone in my hand, which was glowing. He knew. "She's lying," he spat. "It's a setup." "We've got a warrant for this room, Mr. Wells," Cale said, walking past him and taking the checkbook from my shaking hand. "And my deputy just recorded your full confession. After 25 years, it's over." Roland didn't fight. The strength, the arrogance just evaporated. He looked for the first time in his life like a small old man. It all happened fast. The arrest was front-page news. The fall of Roland Wells, the local empire built on fraud and murder. With Roland's confession, they got a warrant for the old construction site. They had to bring in heavy machinery. But on the second day, they found him. We had a funeral, a real one, 25 years late. It was just me. My mother she was too far gone to understand. I didn't want her there. I stood at the graveside watching them lower the casket. The guilt I had carried, the heavy, dark stone of it, was gone. It had been replaced by a profound, aching sadness for the brother I never got to know, the man he was. When it was over, I walked up to the casket before they covered it. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my graduation tassel from 1998. It was faded, the gold 98 charm tarnished. I laid it on the polished wood. "You made it, Damien," I whispered, the tears finally coming, hot and clean. "You're not late. I saved you a seat. I was free. I'm sharing this because for 25 years, I let guilt define my life. I let my last words be the end of my story. But the truth, no matter how long it takes, has a way of finding the surface. So I have to ask you, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Could you have faced the man who destroyed your family? Subscribe if you believe every truth, no matter how deep it's buried, eventually surfaces.